In the matter of SUKDEB SAHA versus the state of Andhra Pradesh, Supreme Court of India directed that investigation into unnatural death of Miss X shall be transferred to the CBI forthwith. The investigating officer and concerned authorities of police station of Vishakhapatnam shall hand over entire case records including relevant papers, documents, CCTV footage, forensic reports and material evidence to Office of Director CBI without undue delay. Director of CBI shall ensure immediate registration of an RC and assign investigation of same to team of competent officials under supervision of jurisdictional superintendent of CBI. Supreme Court also directed Union of India to file compliance affidavit before court within 90 days from this judgment. The affidavit shall detail steps taken to implement guidelines, coordination mechanisms established with state governments, status of regulatory rulemaking with respect to coaching centers, and monitoring systems put in place. The affidavit shall also indicate expected timeline for completion of report and recommendations of National Task Force on mental health concerns of students. All states and union territories shall notify rules within 2 months from date of this judgment mandating registration, student protection norms, and grievance redressal mechanisms for all private coaching centers. These rules shall require compliance with mental health safeguards prescribed herein. District level monitoring committee shall be constituted in each district under chairpersonship of district magistrate or collector. Committee may include representatives from departments of education, health and child protection, civil society, and shall oversee implementation, conduct inspections, and receive complaints. Copy of this judgment shall also be circulated to Education Ministry, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Ministry of Law and Justice, University Grants Commission, National Council for Education Research and Training, Central Board of Secondary Education, All India Council for Technical Education, and Chief Secretaries of all states and union territories for immediate compliance and necessary action. In exercise of powers conferred upon court under Article 32 of Constitution of India for enforcement of fundamental rights and treating this pronouncement as law declared by this court under Article 141, Supreme Court issued following guidelines which shall remain in force and be binding until such time as appropriate legislation or regulatory frameworks are enacted by competent authority. The guidelines are: all educational institutions shall adopt and implement uniform mental health policy, drawing cues from Ummeed draft guidelines, Manod, Manodarpan initiative, and National Suicide Prevention Strategy. This policy shall be reviewed and updated annually and made publicly accessible on institutional websites and notice boards of the institutes. All education institutes with 100 or more enrolled students shall appoint or engage at least one qualified counselor, psychologist, or social worker with demonstrable training in child and adolescent mental health. Institutions with fewer students shall establish formal referral linkages with external mental health professionals. All education institutes shall ensure optimal student to counselor ratios. Dedicated mentors or counselors shall be assigned to smaller batches of students, especially during exam periods and academic transition, to provide consistent, informal, and confidential support. All education institutions, more particularly coaching centers, shall refrain from engaging in batch segregation based on academic performance, public shaming, or assignment of academic targets disproportionate to students' capacities. All education institutions shall establish written protocols for immediate referral to mental health services, local hospitals, and suicide prevention helplines. Suicide helpline numbers, including telemanas and other national services, shall be prominently displayed in hotels, classrooms, common areas, and on websites on large and legible print. All teaching and non teaching staff shall undergo mandatory training twice a year conducted by certified mental health professionals on psychological first aid, identification of warning signs, response to self harm, and referral mechanisms. All education institutions shall ensure that all teaching, non teaching administrative staff are adequately trained to engage with students from vulnerable and marginalized backgrounds in sensitive, inclusive, non discriminatory manner. This shall include, but not be limited to, students belonging to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, economically weaker sections, LGBTQ plus communities, students with disabilities, those in out of home care, and students affected by bereavement, trauma, or prior suicide attempts or intersecting form of marginalization. All education institutions shall establish robust, confidential, and accessible mechanisms for reporting, redressal, and prevention of incidents involving sexual assault, harassment, ragging, bullying on basis of caste, class, region, gender, sexual orientation, disability, religion, or ethnicity. Every institution shall constitute internal committee or designated authority empowered to take immediate action on complaints and provide psychosocial support to victims. Institutions shall maintain zero tolerance for retaliatory actions against complaints or whistleblowers. In all cases, immediate referral to trained mental health professionals must be ensured, and student safety, physical and psychological, shall be prioritized. Failure to take timely action in such cases, especially where neglect contributes to students' self harm or suicide, shall be treated as institutional culpability, making administration liable to regulatory and legal consequences. All education institutions shall regularly organize sensitization programs, physical and online, for parents and guardians on student mental health. It shall be duty of institution to sensitize parents and guardians to avoid placing undue academic pressure, to recognize signs of psychological distress and respond empathetically and supportively. Further, mental health literacy, emotional regulation, life skills education, and awareness of institutional support services shall be integrated into student orientation programs and co curricular activities. All education institutions shall maintain anonymized records and prepare annual report regarding number of wellness interventions, student referrals, training sessions, mental health related activities. This report shall be submitted to relevant regulatory authority, which may be State Education Department, University Grants Commission, All India Council for Technical Education, Central Board of Secondary Education, or otherwise indicated. All education institutions shall prioritize extracurricular activities, including sports, arts, personality development initiatives. Examination patterns shall be periodically reviewed to reduce academic burden and cultivate broad sense of identity among students beyond test scores and ranks. All education institutions, including coaching centers and training institutes, shall provide regular structured career counseling services to students and their parents. These sessions shall be conducted by qualified counselors and aim to reduce unrealistic academic pressure, promote awareness of diverse academic and professional pathways, and assist students in making informed and thus interest based career decisions. Institutions shall ensure that such counseling is inclusive, sensitive to socioeconomic and psychological context, and does not reinforce narrow definitions of merit or success. All residential based educational institutions, including hostel owners, wardens, caretakers, shall take proactive steps to ensure campuses remain free from harassment, bullying, drugs, and harmful substances, ensuring safe and healthy living and learning environment for all students. All residential based institutions shall install tamper proof ceiling fans, equivalent safety devices, and shall restrict access to rooftops, balconies, and high risk areas in order to deter impulsive acts of self harm. All coaching hubs, including but not limited to Jaipur, Kota, Sikar, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai, and other cities where students migrate in large numbers for competitive exams, shall implement heightened mental health protections and preventive measures. These regions have witnessed disproportionately high incidents of student suicides and require special attention. The concerned authorities, namely Department of Education, District Administration, and Management of Education Institutions, shall ensure provision of regular career counseling for students and parents, regulation of academic pressure through structured academic planning, availability of continuous psychological support, and establishment of institutional mechanisms for monitoring and accountability to safeguard student mental well being. Courts also said that the above guidelines shall apply to all education institutions across India, including public and private schools, colleges, universities, training centers, coaching institutes, residential academics, and hostels, irrespective of their affiliation. Court also clarified that these guidelines are not in supersession but in parallel to ongoing work of the National Task Force on Mental Health Concern of Students, and are being issued to provide interim protective architecture in the interregnum. Court said we believe that these guidelines shall be read as complementary to ongoing work of National Task Force and would inform and assist National Task Force in development of a more comprehensive and inclusive framework.